Shemai. Today we're going to have a look at a really common woodland plant and it's all the way across the sides of the path here and even in the understory looking all the way through the woodland there. And it's this one here. Now, I've just described it to one of my children as looking a little bit boring, but it's actually really interesting and fascinating. And this is dog's Mercury, or Mercurialis perennis. In Welsh is Cleiserhydd or Bresicacwn. And it's really common. It also goes by the name of false Mercury or dog's coal or boggart posy. And why it's important and why it's an important one to recognise is because it's poisonous. This dog's Mercury can grow up to about 50 centimetres tall, and it's usually in flower, and actually it's very difficult to see, but it's in flower now at the moment between March and May. It's very common, as I said, in the understory of woods and ancient hedgerows and can completely cover the woodland floor. Now, let's just see if I can raise that up. And like I said, all through there is dog's Mercury. And it prefers sort of oak and ash and beech and elm woodlands. Now, this is predominantly ash and beech, and I guess it's the reason why it is so common in this area. So it favours shade, so you know the beech are notorious for being a very shady tree, and it's also a very good indicator of an ancient woodland. I mean, I quite often come down into this woodland and there are lots of indicator species down in here. Now the leaves, and you can see in comparison to the size of my hand there, the leaves are actually large and pointed, and as they start to develop, these aren't quite so shiny, but the younger leaves are quite shiny, and also to the touch they're slightly hairy, and they come off these little short stalks like that. And then near the top, if I can just move that to the side, you can see there's hardly any leaves down there, and as you get higher up the plant, it becomes quite crowded with these leaves, and it actually shades out most of the things underneath it. Now, as I said, it flowers in March to May, and the flowers, if you can just see them on those little spikes behind my hand, they're tiny. And the male flowers are about 4 to 5 millimeters long, and they're on these long spikes, as you can see here. And the female flowers are on shorter spikes with fewer flowers, but very small and difficult to see. And then they turn into little seed pods, and actually I did see some seed pods on some of the ones further back up the track. I'll see if I can find some. We've come a little bit further up the track, and as you can see by there, there's some little seeds by there. Now, as you can see from the ones in front of us here, they're very rarely nibbled or damaged because they are poisonous. And they're very similar to a plant called Chenopodium, whose common name was Mercury. And the dog part actually just means that it's bad because it's poisonous. So that's where the dog Mercury comes from. Although they're very rarely nibbled, some cricket nymphs, beetles and snails will actually feed upon the leaves, and there are, you can just see down in there is a little hole in that one, and there are a few with tiny holes in, but I get the impression that things start to nibble it and then realise that they're poisonous and not nice and leave it alone. But it's important to note, especially if you own dogs and walk dogs in woodlands, that actually this plant is toxic to dogs and many animals. Dog's Mercury used to be used to make a yellow straw-coloured dye, but I also read somewhere that it can make a blue dye, but I'm not actually so sure about that one. So we said earlier that it's also known as the Boggarts posy. Now, as in Harry Potter, a boggart is a mischievous household spirit who can hide things and turn milk sour, and it's said will put a clammy hand on your face at night. So a bit of a mischievous, naughty little critter. So there we go, dog's Mercury. I always think it's really important to know these ones. Anything that's poisonous or anything that can cause you or your pets and things any harm is a good one to recognise. Obviously don't go picking it and touching it, but it does have this interest, these tiny little flowers and the seed pods. And like I say, it is a good indicator of an ancient woodland. So there we go, dog's Mercury. Go out and find it. Good luck.